October 14, 1943. The sky over northern Germany is a pale, merciless blue. No clouds, no cover, just open air and enemy guns waiting below. Staff Sergeant Jack Turner grips the yoke of his Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. He's 23 years old, from Ohio, and today he is flying deeper into Germany than he has ever gone before. Below him lies the industrial city of Bremen. Ball-bearing plants, U-boat yards, targets that matter, targets that will be defended. The mission is part of the massive daylight raid that history will later call Second Schweinfurt Raid. More than 290 B-17s stretch across the horizon in tight combat boxes. No long-range fighter escort. The P-47s have already turned back. Jack feels that absence like a weight in his chest. Inside the bomber, 10 men work in silence. The bombardier lies prone in the nose, staring through the northern sight. The top turret gunner rotates slowly, scanning for spikes in the distance. The waist gunners adjust their .50 caliber Brownings, gloved fingers flexing in the cold. At 25,000 feet, the temperature is below zero. Oxygen masks fog with every breath. Bandits, 11 o'clock high. The voice crackles through the intercom. Tiny black dots grow larger, sleek, fast. German Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters dive through the formation, sunlight flashing off wings. Then come the twin-engine Messerschmitt Bf 110 destroyers, armed with cannons meant to tear bombers apart. The sky erupts. Flak bursts bloom like black flowers around the formation. The B-17 shudders violently as fragments hammer the fuselage. Jack fights the controls, keeping position in the tight box formation. If they drift apart, they die alone. A B-17 ahead explodes in a sheet of flame. Pieces spiral downward. No parachutes. Hold her steady, the bombardier says. His voice is calm, too calm. The fighters come again. A Bf 109 flashes past the cockpit. So close Jack sees the pilot's goggles. Machine gun fire rips across the left wing. The engine coughs. All pressure drops. Smoke trails behind them now. Jack does not look at it. He keeps formation. That is survival. Another bomber slides into view on their right, wounded. Streaming smoke from its tail. Too close. Far too close. The two aircraft drift toward each other in the chaos of flak and fire. Jack pulls back on the yoke and realizes there is no room left in the sky. The collision is not an explosion. It is a grinding scream of metal. Jack feels it before he understands it. The right side of his Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress lurches violently as another bomber slams into the midair. The world becomes noise. Aluminum tears like paper. Propellers bite into flesh and steel. The cockpit fills with vibration so violent Jack's teeth rattle. For one suspended second, both aircraft hang together in the sky. Two wounded giants locked wing to wing. Jesus! Someone shouts over the intercom. The other B-17 has drifted from its formation, its tail shredded by cannon fire from a Messerschmitt Bf 110. Now its left wing is embedded into Jack's right stabilizer. They are fused. Below them, the city of Bremen waits like a steel trap. Jack fights the controls. The yoke is stiff, almost dead. The aircraft should be tumbling. It should be falling. But somehow the combined wreckage finds a twisted balance. The interlocked metal holds. Two bombers, one broken shape, hydraulics gone. The co-pilot yells. The engineer reports fire in engine 3. The gauges flicker wildly. From the right side window, Jack sees the other crew. Their cockpit glass is shattered. One pilot is slumped forward. The co-pilot is still moving, eyes wide with disbelief as he stares across the few feet separating them. Two crews, staring at each other through fractured plexiglass, suspended over enemy territory. Either can break free. If they try, both planes may disintegrate. A Bf 109 streaks past and fires. Bullets rake across both aircraft, as if they are one enormous target. The waist gunner opens up, .50 caliber tracers stitching the sky. The German fighter peels away. Flak bursts erupt again. One explosion rocks the fused bombers so hard Jack nearly loses grip. Bomb run in 30 seconds. The bombardier calls. His voice trembles now. Jack looks forward. The formation is gone, scattered, burning. Parachutes drift in the distance. He has a choice. Drop the bombs and lighten the load-risking structural failure of this twisted wreckage. Or hold them, try to stabilize, and pray they can survive long enough to escape. He glances once more at the other pilot across the shattered glass. The man raises a hand. Not a wave, not panic, just a steady, silent acknowledgement. We're still flying. For now. Jack's hands are numb inside his gloves. Not from the cold, from the realization that they are still airborne. Two shattered Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress bombers locked together like broken bones that refuse to separate. Bomb bay doors are jammed. The bombardier shouts. That changes everything. The aircraft is carrying a full load of 500-pound bombs meant for the factories near Bremen. If they cannot release them, they are flying a massive explosive weight across enemy territory while physically fused to another crippled bomber. Jack tries the bomb release toggle. Anyway, nothing. The green indicator lights stay dark. Another burst of flak detonates beneath them. The shockwave lifts the joined aircraft like a toy. Metal groans. Something structural shifts behind him, a deep, violent creak. In the right side cockpit, the other B-17's co-pilot is still conscious. Blood runs down the side of his face. He leans toward his controls, trying to move them. Nothing happens. Their control surfaces are tangled. One plane cannot move without the other. Engine 3 is gone, the engineer says. 4's overheating. Jack glances at the gauges. They are losing altitude. Slowly, but steadily. A formation of Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters circles at a distance. Cautious now. The fused bombers make no sense. They should be falling. Instead, they lumber forward like a wounded beast that refuses to die. The waist gunner fires a short burst at a distant shape. Empty brass clatters across the frozen floor. The air inside the fuselage smells of oil and cordite. Tell them to bail out, someone says, but no one moves. If even one crew abandons ship, the shift in weight could tear both planes apart. If they separate violently, debris could shred parachutes before they fully open. And below them is Germany. Capture is certain. Jack keys the intercom. His voice is steady, though his heart pounds against his ribs. Nobody jumps. We ride it. There is silence. Then one by one. Copy. Copy. Across the narrow gap of shattered aluminum, the other co-pilot sees Jack's lips move. He nods once. The bombers cross the target area without dropping a single bomb. Below, the factories remain untouched. Ahead lies 400 miles of hostile airspace. The formation is gone. The escorts are gone. It is just a broken aircraft, welded together by accident and survival. The nose dips slightly. They are losing altitude faster now, and Germany is rising up to meet them. Altitude, 21,000 feet, dropping. Jack forces the nose up gently, careful not to stress the twisted airframe. The two fused Boeing B-17, Flying Fortress groan like a single wounded animal. The controls barely respond. Every movement feels delayed, as if the sky itself is resisting them. Behind him, the engineer shouts over the intercom. Fuel's leaking from the right wing. We've got maybe 30 minutes before she runs dry. 30 minutes in German airspace. A burst of cannon fire flashes past. One of the circling Messerschmitt Bf 109 dives again, testing them. The German pilot hesitates. The fused bombers present an impossible silhouette, too large, too strange. The top turret gunner opens fire. Tracers streak upward. The Bf 109 breaks away. Jack exhales slowly. Every breath fogs his oxygen mask. He glances right again. The other B-17's cockpit is darker now. Smoke seeps from behind the pilot's seat. The slumped figure hasn't moved. The co-pilot is still alive, barely. He struggles with something near his panel. Then Jack sees it. The other bomber's bombs are gone. They must have released during the collision or impact. If those bombs had detonated. Jack forces the thought away. A metallic crack reverberates through the structure. The right stabilizer shifts violently. The two aircraft sag closer together. Structural failure. Someone yells. Below them, fields and rivers stretch toward the horizon. The coastline lies somewhere ahead, if they can reach it. Feather engine 3, Jack orders. The propeller slows, then stops, reducing drag. The vibration eases slightly. For a fragile moment, the fused bombers level out. Jack leans forward, eyes scanning the pale line of distant water. If they can make it to the North Sea, ditching becomes possible. In Germany, it means capture, or worse. Across the gap, the wounded co-pilot lifts something in his hand. A flare pistol. He fires it inside his own cockpit. Red light blooms against shattered glass. Signal of distress. Signal of intent. Jack understands immediately. They cannot hold much longer. If the aircraft tear apart over land, both crews die or fall into enemy hands. But over water, there is a chance, slim, freezing, desperate, but a chance. The fuel gauge on the right wing drops toward empty. The nose dips again, and ahead, just barely visible through haze and smoke, the thin silver line of the sea. Altitude, 12,000 feet. The sea is closer now, a cold sheet of gray beneath scattered cloud. Jack keeps the nose steady, hands locked on the yoke of the fused Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. Every vibration feels fatal. Every shudder threatens to tear the two bombers apart. Right tank's dry. The engineer calls. Engine for coughs, sputters. then dies. The sudden asymmetry yanks the joined aircraft sideways. Jack slams opposite rudder, fighting torque from engines 1 and 2. The control surfaces respond sluggishly, dragged by the twisted remains of the second bomber's tail. Across the narrow gap of broken metal, the other co-pilot sees what's happening. He mirrors Jack's movements, gently working his own controls, though he knows they barely function. Two pilots, flying one impossible machine. Below, the coastline of northern Germany slips behind them. Ahead lies open water, the North Sea, dark and unforgiving. Germans are breaking off, the tail gunner reports. It makes sense. Over water, downed crews are harder to capture. And the fused bombers are already dying. The Luftwaffe has other targets to hunt. Jack feels a flicker of relief. It vanishes when he sees the altimeter unwind faster. 9,000 feet. The structure shifts again. A long tear opens along the other bomber's fuselage. Aluminum peels back into the slipstream. Something large, a panel, maybe part of a wing root, rips free and spirals downward. The balance changes instantly. The two aircraft sag unevenly, like broken limbs losing support. "Sir," the co-pilot whispers, voice tight, "we can't ditch like this." He's right. If they hit the water still fused, the angle will flip them. The weight of two airframes will drag everyone under before they can escape. Jack studies the twisted junction where wing meets tail. If they separate cleanly, both might glide, barely, long enough to control their own ditching. But if they separate violently, it will be catastrophic. He looks across again. The wounded German-facing horizon is gone now. Only sea fills the view. The other co-pilot meets his eyes and nods slowly. He understands too. Jack keys the intercom. "Prepare to bail out on my command. Stay ready." Not yet. 6,000 feet. The metal screams again, louder this time, and the two bombers begin to pull away from each other. Altitude, 4,800 feet. The scream of tearing aluminum becomes a roar. Jack feels the shift before he sees it. The twisted wingspar that has held the two Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress bombers together begins to give way. Rivets shear, panels rip loose and vanish into the slipstream. "Now," Jack shouts, "stand by." Across the shattered gap, the other co-pilot braces himself, one hand on the yoke, the other gripping the side frame of his cockpit. His pilot is still slumped forward, unmoving. The aircraft lurch violently. With a final metallic crack, the two bombers tear free. The sudden release throws Jack forward against his harness. His B-17 drops sharply, right wing dipping hard. For a second, he thinks they are going into a spin. "Counter it! Counter it!" the co-pilot yells. Jack forces left rudder, eases the yoke back. Engines one end to howl at full power. The aircraft shudders, then stabilizes into a rough, wounded glide. He glances right. The second bomber is still airborne. Barely. Its tail section is nearly gone. Smoke trails behind it in a thin, fading line. But it is flying, free now, no longer dragging Jack down with it. 3,500 feet. "Bail out," Jack commands. The order moves through the fuselage like electricity. The top turret gunner drops down. The waist gunners clip on parachutes with shaking hands. The radio operator hesitates only a moment before moving toward the waist hatch. Cold air slams through the aircraft as the hatch opens. The roar of wind fills everything. One by one, silhouettes disappear into open sky. Jack keeps flying. He will not abandon the controls while others are still inside. 2,500 feet. He watches the other B-17. He sees small dark figures leaving it too. Parachutes blooming white against the gray sky over the North Sea, but not all of them. The cockpit of the other bomber remains occupied. The wounded co-pilot is still there, trying to hold it level, buying seconds for his crew. 1,800 feet. "Sir, you've got to go," his co-pilot shouts. Jack looks once more at the falling shapes beneath them, at the sea waiting below. He trims the aircraft into the most stable glide he can manage. Then he stands. The bomber's nose begins to dip as he moves toward the hatch. The altimeter unwinds past 1,200 feet, and the sea rises fast. The wind hits Jack like a wall. He grips the edge of the waist hatch of his falling Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress, looks once at the empty cockpit ahead, then steps into open sky. The slipstream tears him backward. For a second there is only noise and spinning blue-gray horizon. Then he pulls the ripcord. The parachute snaps open with a violent jerk that wrenches his shoulders. Silence follows, sudden and enormous. Above him, the crippled B-17 continues forward without a pilot. Its nose dips slowly. One wing catches the air, stalls, and the bomber rolls gently toward the sea. Jack watches it fall. He feels something deeper than fear, grief. 10 men trusted that machine. It carried them across continents. Now it descends alone. A splash far below marks its end. He turns in his harness, scanning the sky. White parachutes dot the air around him. His crew, alive. Farther away, he sees the second bomber, barely airborne. Its tail wobbles dangerously. For a moment it seems as if the other pilot might save it. Then the wing folds. The aircraft breaks apart in a slow, terrible motion and plunges into the North Sea. Several parachutes drift above the impact site, but not from the cockpit. Jack swallows hard. The wounded co-pilot had stayed to hold it level, just long enough for the others to jump. The sea rises quickly now. The wind carries him eastward, toward occupied Europe. He checks below. One of his gunners is drifting dangerously close to a patch of white-capped waves. Another man is struggling to steer his chute against the wind. No rescue ships are visible. No friendly coastline. Only gray water stretching to the horizon. Jack braces for impact. The ocean slams into him like concrete. The cold is immediate, shocking, paralyzing. He fumbles for the quick-release buckles, fighting panic as the parachute canopy collapses over him. He breaks free and inflates his Mae West life vest. Around him, heads surface coughing, gasping, alive. But they are drifting, and on the distant horizon, faint but unmistakable, a small patrol craft moves across the water. German. The water steals breath first, then strength. Jack forces himself to stay calm, legs kicking slowly to keep circulation alive. Around him, fragments of two destroyed Boeing B-17, Flying Fortress float in widening circles, splintered wood flooring, fabric insulation, a torn section of wing with the white star half visible above the waves. 7 heads. He counts again. 7. 3 are missing. The North Sea is merciless in October. The cold clouds through wool flight suits and leather jackets within minutes. One gunner is already shivering violently, teeth clattering against his oxygen mask strap. Another man bleeds from a gash across his forehead, seawater turning it pink. Stay together, Jack shouts. His voice cracks in the wind. Form up. They paddle closer, linking arms to conserve heat. A crude circle of exhausted men rises and falls with the swells. The patrol craft on the horizon grows larger. Gray hull, low silhouette. German naval flag snapping in the wind. Likely a coastal security boat operating out of northern Germany. No one speaks for a long moment. Capture is certain now. Jack thinks of the other bomber's co-pilot, the man who stayed at the controls so his crew could jump. There had been no words between them, only that final nod through shattered glass. War compresses decisions into seconds, courage into gestures. The patrol craft slows as it approaches the debris field. German sailors peer over the rail. Rifles hang casually at their shoulders. They are cautious but not aggressive. The Americans are no threat now. A rope ladder splashes into the water. Jack hesitates only a moment. His men are fading fast. Hypothermia will kill them long before pride can. He grips the rope. German hands haul him upward. On deck, boots scrape against wet metal. The sailors speak in clipped, efficient tones. Blankets are thrown around the Americans. One medic kneels beside the wounded gunner and begins bandaging him without hesitation. Professional, detached. Prisoners now. Jack looks back over the gray sea. Smoke still lingers faintly. Where 2 bombers had once clung together and refused to fall. They had crossed Germany fused by accident and survival. They had made it to the sea. Most of the crews had lived. In war, that is victory enough. As the patrol craft turns toward the German coast, Jack feels the weight of what lies ahead. Interrogation. A prison camp, years of waiting. But he is alive. And so are most of his men. The sky above the North Sea returns to empty blue, as if nothing extraordinary had happened at all.